Immortal, invincible, and the wise one, our helper through the ages past, our peace and our rest. We ask that tonight you will cause that the Spirit of truth will guide us into all truth, and that your word will come with grace for us to be able to accomplish. Blessed be your holy name. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Genesis 1:27. We'll start from verse 27 and then we'll read to 28. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And the moment they came into existence, the next thing, or the first experience of man with God was, and God blessed them. If there's anything, there's one of the theological expressions of how to study your Bible. It talks about the law of first mention. That if you want to understand the context of something, you go to the first place it is mentioned. So the first place God is mentioned, in the beginning, God created. But in the relationship of God and man, the moment man comes into existence, the first thing that is mentioned is that God blesses men. That means that if you ever want to relate with God, the core foundational truth of your relationship with God will be that God blesses people. What does it mean to bless? To bless is to release the measures of your capacities in order to help somebody. You may be looking for a job in the local government, and then your chairman of that local government gives you a recommendation letter. Because he is the chairman of that local government, the responses within that local government will change. Why? He has authority there, he has position there, he has resources there, he has influence there. But when you now want to get a job in the federal secretariat in Abuja, that recommendation letter from your local government chairman, maybe it will survive passing the gate, reach the secretary's table, but on that secretary's table, it will collide with the letter that came from a senator. At that point, you know your letter is not valuable again, because the authority that the senator has is superior. So when you are blessed, you have to consider, who is this personality that is blessing you? What does he have under his jurisdiction? What can he afford to establish? There are many ways people bless, whether with words, with actions, with things, with opportunities. So, but the first experience you should know about God is that God blessed. That means every other thing you are going to know about God should be understood from this ground. If God therefore chastises you, it is innate that he wants to bless you. If God tells you fast and the hunger is striking your bowels, you should know that that thing is because he wants to. Because at the root of everything he wants to do with a man is that he wants to bless a man. The problem is just that our context of blessing may not be exactly his context of blessing. Why? For a man, blessing is anything that aids him. So if I say you blessed me, it means you said something, did something, provided something that benefits me. But usually it's not always like that. When a man opens a company and then he blesses you to be the manager of the company, he has blessed you, isn't it? But really, who is really going to enjoy the ultimate of that blessing? The owner. Because whatever you do after the salary, there must be a profiting beyond your salary. That's why he puts you there. As much as God bless us, the ultimate is that in every blessing he meets out to us, he is going to gain something. There's something he wants to achieve from creation, so he blessed. He made us in his image and in his likeness, and it implies that the way he is and the way he operates is the way he wants us to operate. He rules the heavens, and everything within the heavens runs at his desire, the way he wants it to be. That's how it runs. Then he decides to create the earth and makes a personality like unto himself. And the only difference, really, the major difference between us and God is that God is a source point. God does not derive anything from anywhere, but we derive. But if we successfully derive everything like we ought to, we operate exactly like him. That's Jesus Christ. That if you see Jesus Christ's operation, you know the Father. He said, one of the people came to him and said, you've been with us so long, show us the Father and it's enough. Why? Because every time you say, I see the Father, I hear the Father. You have been able to partner with the Father so much, we like the result. Show us the Father. And he said, why are you looking for the Father? If you have seen me, there is nothing different. You have seen who? The Father. I have been able to mirror out whatever the Father wants. When that happens, Jesus. When that happens, that you successfully mirror God, God becomes excited about it. Just like if the manager mirrors the desires of the one that employs him, the company will grow. So he wanted to mirror that reality. The moment he released man, he knows man is not a source point, so he gave man what will make man mirror that dimension. And God blessed him. He quickly gave us the context of the blessing. He said, be fruitful. The way I see you, it is just you and this Eve, two of you. But that's not how I am in heaven. I have angels, I have cherubims and seraphims and archangels. And so we are able to make this thing work. It's not going to work if you don't multiply. So he said, be fruitful. So somebody jokingly said, if you are married and you have 2 children, you are fruitful. You only replaced yourself. But by the time you get to 3, 4, 5, you have gone to the next place. What are you doing now? So you have become 2 times 2 is 4. So if you have 4, we can say you have reached the next blessing. Well, that's on the light side. Be fruitful. Multiply. Then he says replenish. Replenish means there was something there before and that thing has been removed and I need you to fill it back. You can get that context in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Then verse 2 tells you the earth was without form and void. Void means you had emptied it. I don't want to go back. That was a result of Lucifer's fall and the warfare that happened. Now he's saying, the thing I intended that Lucifer's fall had trampled with, the city that was in existence. You can find that in Jeremiah, I believe. The city that was in existence that the waters are taken away. Go back and replenish, build, replenish the earth. But the moment he got there, he had an issue. You need to understand the language. The language is specific. Be fruitful. Adam and Eve can be fruitful. Multiply. You can just multiply. Replenish. It means, oh God, what was there in the earth before? How can we put it back in place? Then he now adds, subdue it. Subdue is a language that talks about contention. You are fruitful, you have multiplied, you've replenished. But within the context of the blessing, he adds a war front, a subduing. There is some personality you have to subdue. And that's because before that place, there was a war and Satan was cast down. And the decree from heaven is woe unto you, earth. Because Satan, the arch enemy of God, had been cast down to the earth. The problem is this. Satan cannot be good. So don't try partnering with him. The simple example I usually use, I want to use. If I bathe myself in red oil and I decide to hug you because I care about you, what happens to your clothes? Now, that's how Satan is. He's bad. So if he sends you and you go, when you come back, he wants to shake you to congratulate you. Sincerely, that's what he wants to do. He wants to appreciate you. Well done for helping me. You joined the cult and you killed 5 people. Man, you are a good guy. The moment he shakes you, he administers what comes along with him. It's called death. So he can't even congratulate the people that serve him. Don't serve him. Don't serve him. When he landed the earth, everything he touches, death is administered. So God, knowing that Satan had been cast down to the earth, he now included it in our syllables of the blessing. You eat. The reason is that the earth itself is going to fight. So quickly, he gave us a picture of what he wanted us to do if we successfully get into dominion. He made a garden. Please follow the story. He made a garden and then he put a man. So when the man looks at the garden was in the east of Eden. The remaining earth was not a garden. And simply put, a garden is an arranged way of planting what you desire. You desire vegetables, you plant. You desire a flower, you plant. You measure how you want it, where you want it. So the earth was growing without design. Blessed. The trees were growing, the fishes were growing, but he wanted man to design it so that as you find the descriptions of heaven, that the streets are made of gold, the houses are, the tree of life is, the river of water from the throne. He wanted man to now start knitting out the earth like that. So that if a man lands in a forest called Abuja in 1980, because that would have been a forest then. When did Abuja become a capital? It's what? 90 something, I think it was IBB. 80 something, 90. 89, beautiful. Before 89, it was like a forest. In short, not before 89. Those of you that live in this area, when I got married, me and my wife used to travel through bush between this place to Chika. Forest. A fearful forest where smokers smoke. We will pass through that forest of cashew trees to go for evangelism. The forest doesn't exist again. Man has turned it to a settlement. So that was the assignment, that replenish the earth, take over everything. But, the person speaking is spirit. The person speaking is not flesh. So if I give you 5,000 square meters of land and I tell you, subdue it, have dominion. You just build a estate, sell it and make money. But if a spirit now tells you subdue it, then you have to ask, from whence are you speaking? It was not necessarily about the physical trees of the forest. It was because there was a civilization running the earth. Do you remember when Cain got angry about some matters, killed his brother, left God, left the presence of God, and the Bible says he went and built a city. The reason he could build a city, there was another wisdom at work outside of the garden. that without that guarding system, without God, you could build a system that is not divine. What I'm saying is, even as it is now, you may pass through a place and see 3-story buildings beautifully lit at night, but when you check it by the blessing, you will see a forest. How many of you have dreamt with your secondary school many times? Just, you keep dreaming, you see yourself going to secondary school. Beautiful. The reason why you can see it like that many times is because when you were going to the secondary school, all you saw was admin and classes. In my secondary school where I went to, there was a tree. That tree was in front of our hostel. There was one other tree. That tree was beside the admin block. As far as we were concerned, they were trees until we left school. And then as we began to press to head towards Zion, we realized that we were still living in the hostel. Some of you still see yourself in university, you have not collected your letter. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you, that physical building you saw, me. You were living in a territory that was not yet subdued. So after I left school, for many years, I would see myself in secondary school, struggling in the hostel. But one day, as I was growing in stature, the warfare was shifting. It was shifting. Then one day I saw that same tree. I know the tree. But that day when I looked at the tree in the vision, the tree was alive and living, not biological. The tree was dancing. It was turning round. I said, Then I looked at the second tree. Long story cut short, Abba helped me to subdue it. And I came out. The reason I can confirm it is not because you need a mouth of 2 or more witnesses, isn't it? So I met one of my friends that was my senior in secondary school. He was struggling. He now came to me and said, have you noticed that all of us that finished from this secondary school, our lives are miserable? There are only a very few, and those very few were deep Islamic guys. And he began to name, don't you know that it's only this one, this one, this one? None of us have anything to show. The problem is that we were living in a land that was not subdued. And we didn't know our vice principal, and God bless her soul. We didn't know that was the intercessor at the gate and she was cut off before we left that school. And after she left, a strange civilization was there, even though it was hostel and class. So when my friend came and told me that thing, I had come out. Meanwhile, after I had come out of that one, I realized that even my university hostel, in a commuter. So that was the next one. Some of you are still living. A man of God was sharing how that he lived in Jos for 10 years. For how many years? Then things were not moving. He went on a fasting and prayer 7 days. As he began that fast, on day 1, he was in his village. Day 2, it was on the last day, he now dreamt and saw himself. I can't tell you all the story. He now saw himself leaving the village. Then the old woman said, now you can go. Now you can what? So I needed to know that I had left. So I looked at that, my friend, and said, you have that experience? I didn't pray. I told him, because I have left, leave. You are released. As I said it, I think a month or 2 later, he got a federal government job. Meanwhile, he had been jobless for years. But he had traced it to where he was locked. Physically, he has a youth service certificate. But the civilizations made sure that he's a secondary school student. Did you get my storyline? So Abba now blessed us and said, subdue subdue this thing, subdue it. Oh, 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 subdue it. And then he said, have dominion. One of the things about the spirit realm, please follow me. One of the things about the spirit realm is hierarchy. Hierarchy. When something at a higher level speaks, the one at the lower level gives way. So, if you have an ant in the spirit realm here, and you have a lion here, the ant is stronger. That's how the spirit realm is designed. Just like the way you design an organogram for a workplace. That's why God is called Most High. Most High. He said, I am the Most High. I have looked beside me. Who has this kind of authority in the spirit realm like me? There is none. But another thing that defines strength in the spirit realm is the ancientness of something. Is there a word called ancientness? All right. In the spirit realm, what happened in 1940 is superior to what happened in 1943. So that whatever happened in 1940, if you lay hold on it, you can annul what happened in 1943. Do you get the picture? That's why before the foundations of the earth were laid, there was a lamb that was slain. So that whatever happens after we make the earth, we have something of a higher authority than what has happened. So at the fall of Adam, there was an ancient sacrifice that was already made, that even if Adam falls, that sacrifice can cover for him. I said that to explain this, that the first thing you were given as a human being is the blessing, so that whatsoever happens after the blessing, we can go back to the beginning. So that if somebody says, how shall it be if this and this? Then you say, it was not so. From where? I've shown you how they use that thing. Shall we do this? They say, no, it was not so from the beginning. It means you can look at a curse in your life and tell that curse, it was not so. You now have something superior to the curse. Whether the curse is from you or from somebody or is territorial, from the beginning, the first thing you were given as a human being is the blessing. That way, when you arrive at subdue, you are going to find contention. But that contention is not as legal or ancient as the blessing. I know you have heard of ancestral curses, and they are true. But before ancestral curse, God did what? He blessed them. Our first parents were blessed. Any other parent that was cursed, we can look back to what? The blessing. When you study covenants by God, you will find out the moment God initiates a covenant, the first thing he will do is the blessing. So that if you walk with that covenant, when you get into contention, you can revert back to this blessing. I'm repeating this round and round because I want us to travel. Have you gotten what I'm explaining now? Have you really gotten what I just explained? Or I should go back again? I need the answer from your spirit. That the blessing is older than the curse. And by spiritual permutations, it becomes superior to the curse. You need to hold it. I gave you the story of the school because as we were building, fruitful, multiply and replenishing, it was given to humanity. It means that the herbalist has a part, the Islamist has a part, the Hinduist has a part, and the believer has a part. So when the Hindu man multiplied, he built a temple for Hinduism. When the Muslim man multiplied, he built a mosque for Islam. When the herbalist was multiplying, he built a shrine. Those were just headquarters. And as they built, for example, when you see our brothers, when they build a filling station, what will they add to it there? There is a headquarter. So if you enter this filling station, it has been subdued for something. So the herbalist decided to build a shrine, and then he mapped out the whole of a village and decided that this village is a refuse dump. If you build a 5-story building in the physical, what you are building your 5-story building upon as per the spirit realm is refuse. Who built our secondary schools? Those ones you are dreaming with. Government. Most of them were government schools. But somebody walked into that school. He may have been a teacher. He may even have been a cleaner. Like for my own hostel, I saw the person. It was a security man. When you come back from prayer around 2 a.m., you see him at the door like this. And one day he was at the door, I was standing behind him. And while he did his own, I was also there. Kalima, Kavavo, Ove. By the time he was done, devotion was hard. We were about 3 different sets. That said, have you realized that people sleep off during devotions now? Because somebody has built a spirit city within that context. He didn't build a house, but he came with the understanding subdue. I don't know what negotiation he did, but it can be that whoever stays in this hostel, anywhere he labors in life, a measure of his labors comes to me. Someone collided with a man that is a professor. Please follow me. A man that is a professor. Professor. He was pushing wheelbarrow in the market. One of our cousins. His English, his understanding was too apt for what he was doing. And so he engaged him. And the man told him, he said, what I'm doing now, if I finish it, my generations can never be poor. What was he doing with wheelbarrow in the market that will make sure his generations will never be poor? He was subduing something. Whether you like it or not, the moment you are fruitful and you multiply and you begin replenishing, you are going to build a company. That's the prayer we have for you. Nobody said amen. You will buy lands and you will build estates. You will own shopping malls. But this is why I came tonight. Because we are beginning a pathways in Zion. Will you build a shopping mall and leave another man to subdue it? It can even be a private school that you built. But somebody came, and after 5 years, the person subdued the school. So every child that comes and goes is a slave of that person's destiny. It's the average believer that builds without a purpose in view. Some of you, the office you are, God didn't send you there because he wanted you to have salary, really. You know the salary won't do anything. He sent you there because somebody had subdued that place. And as long as the person is there. My father-in-law shared a story for us. He worked in the oil company. And the amount of wickedness that was there. So one time God told him that he should go on a 3 days fast. And he did. He didn't know what was happening. On the 3rd day of the fast, an emergency meeting was called in the boardroom, oil company, Nigeria, federal office. People are wearing suit and tie, and you think that's what came. But because he was high in the spirit, his eyes were open. He said when he entered the meeting, he saw people carrying charm the way our forefathers used to go to war. And the Lord began to open his eyes. Some of them, the charms they were carrying, if they say something, you can't say no. I will be in charge of the contract. Or God will say what? I was in an office. I wasn't told. I was in an office. And the office had a lot to do with things that had money. And then something happened. Oga said something. Then someone just came in where we were and said, you people should tell Oga to be careful. Oh. I go carry Oga go village. It was not hidden. I mean, the man is saying, tell Oga to be careful. We subdue him here. And when he said it, he just laughed. And every other person was quiet. So I knew every other person was a slave of this one. I know you are waiting for your salary. Somebody is subduing the place. And God is pained. He's pained because every time someone comes into that place, he becomes a slave that cannot fulfill the purposes of God for his life. And God sent you there, and he has blessed you and said, I don't care what happened in that office before you came. Go there. Do you know how my father-in-law did that? He said, I don't know for how many months, he goes to office 6 a.m. and anoints the office and pray before people will show up. There were days that he cannot sit on his seat. God will say, take your seat outside. Don't touch it. Days he will sit on bench inside his office because they have put something in the seat. They brought a man all the way, is he from Benin Republic or somewhere, to come and shake him so that he'll be paralyzed. He noticed every month on a certain Thursday, one person must die in the office. Who designed it? And when they had tried all and it didn't work, then one man came and sat in his office and said, young man, let me tell you how we do this thing. By the time they were tired, they told him face to face, say, we are in a cult. We are in a cult. He's in a cult. This one is in this cult. This cult. Please, which cult are you? We have tried to subdue. Which one? He now laughed and said, I'm in the highest one. I'm in the highest one. I'm in the highest one. That's what he told them. Yeah, we are with the Most High. While you think life is natural, people are subduing. And if we don't labor right, our children become slaves. You thought your children went to school until they graduated and they cannot get job. But if you meet them, they will tell you, Mama, I dreamt that I was in that school. And why did you take your child to that school? That was the reigning school. But you didn't know that it was a cage you took your child to. Of all the schools I attended, there were only 2 schools I didn't find slavery. The first school that we had, Jasmina's New Life School. And then one other school. I don't want to mention the name. All the rest, somebody had subdued it before we came. And when we registered, we became slaves. I know you are trying to build the estate. But bro, sis, while you are building it, what happens to the people that come inside? Lucifer has fallen. He is now Satan. He is in the earth. He is the God of the earth. He intends that you will start a company and it will become his property. That in your company, that's where people will be destroyed. He intends so. He intends that when you build an estate, that's in the estate, he will be taking lives one every 2 months. People will be dying. He intends it. He intends to subdue. He's not afraid of the physical things we build. He's afraid of the men that can, by the blessing, subdue what he is doing, so that a system of dominion is set. Hear me. You can build ministry, this thing called church. You can build it and Satan will come and have it. And every man that comes into it misses his life. It's not as it were that we shout Jesus. It's what system are we building? You remember when we began Mount Up, I told you about systems. For some, like that in my secondary school, it was Egypt. It was Egypt. That my university too was Egypt. While you go to put your child in a school, check. Does the school have the representations of Zion? Hear me, sir. God wants us to be wealthy and to own the earth. But his plan is that this blessing he gave us, we will use it to structure what we are doing. So if anybody enters your estate, I know a school like that. I've watched it over time. When people come to teach in that school, as I'm talking to you, I know at least 4 people that came as teachers and now are missionaries. Full-time missionaries. When they entered this, they entered to teach in the school. They were teaching mathematics. But there is a system that was set that if you enter it, you will be fruitful according to the counsel of God. I was invited to preach in the chapel of a certain hospital many years ago. And as I entered from the gates of the hospital, I said, Jesus Christ. This was supposed to be a place where we save lives. You will think that it was about injections and drip and tablets. It was a place of collecting dead people. If the witches in your village had planned to kill you, may you never be sent there for treatment. Because someone is already waiting to hand you over. Oh, you are the one that want to kill him? Come inside. They hand over and then they negotiate the dead. And when I saw it, I knew someone that was working there. So I called the person. I said, you are a believer. How did you allow this? Can't you see that there is this? Then he told me, say, bro, we know. And he could mention doctors by name that they knew in the hospital were all cult members. In short, he told me, say, there is one of those doctors. If they say he's the one operating you, if you ever come out from that place and nothing goes wrong, Jesus is with you. That usually the ones that are marked for death is the ones he handled. Because if he enters, you don't come out. I said, then what are you doing there? Do you know what he's doing there? Collecting salary. And God is saying, I blessed you with a job. And the intention was go and subdue, so that if people fall sick that don't have faith, I will allow them come to the hospital. Your life in that hospital becomes a cover for which they can receive redemption. That was the idea that God had in mind when he wanted us to build a movie industry, to build a music industry, that when we build, men can come in and be fruitful and multiply and replenish and subdue and come into dominion. I know we're in a season to build. We're in a prophetic season where ideas, resources, privileges is being given to men to be able to build things, to build companies. to build ideas, to build ministries. And God is asking, will I have your own? So that if the child was cursed never to be intelligent, I will by mercy meander the parents to bring the child to your own daycare. I will meander the parents to bring the child to your hospital. And if by any means you can just touch the child when you are trying to treat, the system of your hospital will be such that the curse that comes from that village cannot enter. The Bible speaking about Zion, he said, nothing that maketh a lie can enter. So if something was concocted by Babylon, by Tyre, was concocted by Sodom, the moment he enters inside your business, God wanted to give you company. So the lady has been trying to hunt for her to become an intercessor and an evangelist and will not. He will give her a job in your company. The moment she enters there, she's employed as a secretary, but she cannot explain that since she entered, she began to have encounters as she used to have in secondary school, because there was a resource base of mercy that you kept on ground when you were building. Can we subdue the earth? That's the war going on. You think WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube, it's an ideology out to subdue. I have posted things about Jesus many times on those platforms, and they will never allow it to go out. Never. I will post, they will reject. I will post, they will reject. I will post, they will reject. Because the moment you begin to speak about kingdom as it pertains to Zion, every other spirit city begins to fight. Because it's a language that subdues. They know if this thing goes out, what we are trying to do, we lose. The reason why they like you is because what you are presenting is what they want. Jesus told them, the world loves you because you have not told them truth. I sat down for a while and I began to look at the Antichrist system that we live in. Who told you we should go to work by 8 and close by 4? What do you do at work from 8 to 4? Part of it is gossip, immoralities. Nothing. But it was designed that way so that a father will never have time with his children. That way, by the time you do it for 20 years, you can't recognize your child again. And when you don't recognize your child, then they send your child to a school where you never have time to read the textbook. But inside the textbook, they tell your child he's not a male or female. He should choose what he wants. And you are paying school fees for your child to become your disaster. The reason is because somebody subdued the textbook world. Where are the Christians to write textbooks now? Do you remember the books we used to read? Jesus Christ. I go live in Calabar. He is 8 years old. When you read those books, they are full of morals. They were designed to shape us according to the wisdom of God. But check the books now. Believers have stopped writing. We are on Facebook. We are not writing books. Our textbooks are written by atheists. And we are willing to pay for our children to go and read those books. But we even tell our children, you are tired, don't come to church. But you have never told your child he's tired to come to go to school. You push them out and pay for them to enter systems that will destroy them. And God gave you ability to write. And instead of you to write, you are saying, and the book world has been subdued. The movie world has been subdued. God bless Mount Zion. If not for Mount Zion Ministries as a movie industry in Nigeria, tell me what we can watch and be free that we are watching something. And God told you about building music, building drama, and you refuse all the while. Your children will grow up and they must live somewhere. Just like we went to school and were made slaves of the things we saw. When your children grow up, they will not find your textbook. They will not find your estate. Even the company you build, they will find out that wickedness is what runs inside there. Because you built it by corruption, run it because of mammon. So mammon, Tyre, will be what runs the company you build. And so even your children, when you hand over your company to them, you handed over them to become people of Tyre. So their soul will be merchandised. Not because God didn't give you company, but the company was not built as Zion. Sometimes I sit with my wife and there is cry in my heart. I say, God, how will you keep our children? You don't know the next things that are coming up. We have refused to build an accurate system to describe what marriage is according to the will of God. And so now robots are being churned out for people to marry. How are you going to quarrel with the robot? Anything you tell her to do, she will do. She will work. The only thing that will make her stop work is when battery die. And so men are already preferring to have robots than to marry. So that the blessing that was given to them, you are not them, you are alone. And you will find out what it means when God says it's not good for a man to be alone. Listen. Every one of us need to awaken to the reality of Zion. Every one of us need to awaken. As you start in your family, begin to structure your family to be like Zion. So that anything that enters inside will find a divine life and find the purposes of God. The wickedness we see is because somebody gave it place. We will only find the right thing because somebody decides to build the place. Yes, we will build it. So you will build a company not because you want to make profit, but because you are telling God, God, this is Zion. It means God can wake up and say, close the shop on Tuesday and turn it to a revival meeting. That day, you will not sell, you will not buy. It will be a revival meeting because what you really were building was Zion. The first thing you need to do to partner with this kind of blessing is how you think. Our thinking as believers needs to shift. As long as you are thinking about just you are not ready to build. You are not ready to build. One day I sat down and I was asking myself a question. You see all this work that we are doing, preaching. Thank God for Facebook, for YouTube, for all of them. I said, what if the owner of YouTube wakes up and scraps everything that you kept there? Don't you know that they are really, really against us? I just saw an information. 70 people, Christians, 70 were beheaded. Not one, not two, not three, 70. But you can't find it trending online because the algorithm itself is designed to subdue what shows Christianity. But one person that wore skirt and spaghetti top, a guy, and walk down the street will now trend online. They will push it out, force it into your minds as a normal thing. Because they cannot make Christianity look like a victim, so it will be looked upon and shown mercy. No. Leave it. And I told myself, what if they shut us out? What do we do? Do we have Christians that have YouTube? Something like YouTube. Something like Facebook. I stumbled on one like that years ago, and I had to reach out to the person and say, please, can you labor more? The time is coming where the name of the Lord will be like an abomination when you mention it. And listen to me. The Christianity they told you that the blessing is just about you enjoying, better remove it from your head. We are in the end time. The story of beheading Christians is only going to increase. So we must all now come to a point where our cousins had reached long ago. They were willing to die for what they believe, even with bomb straps on their body. But an average believer is not willing to even sweat. Say, the sun is hot, I can't go to church. I'm feeling tired, I can't go to church. I cannot pray, I can't go for evangelism. That's how the believer is made. Lily Christians. Wake up. Start thinking, what can I build that God will find as a refuge place for souls? What can I build? What did you give me to build? You may even be a politician, and God is saying, begin to build me a network of men that sees leadership as a platform to serve God. Most of what you see as politicians are people looking for fame and money. And so when they sit in the Senate, no matter the things that are brought forth as bills, even if they are against the God that they serve, they will not speak. As long as money enters the pocket. Hallelujah. And then we have a church where all the pastor is waiting for is the tithe that those men bring. And he cannot say, man, sit. Well, you can't even tell him sit because he doesn't have a father. No authority over his life. That we can find fathers that will say, come, sit here. Do you realize that when David is going wrong, Nathan will walk inside and say, David. I don't want to talk about the bills. I hope you know that I think they have approved. Yes, they have approved a university for one of these gods in the West now. University where you go and study about this kind of Ogun Oshun. Yes, Nigeria has approved it. So people will go to university to study idolatry and come out with BSc in witchcraft. You are laughing. It is in Nigeria. They have approved already. Somebody is willing to pay to build. So when people finish from that place, they can look at your child and do him like this, and you have epilepsy. And you are still there, not knowing that you should build Zion. And instead of us to pray and build more, we are the one castigating our own. People go to university in UK and read witchcraft as a course. They teach it even in schools. When I saw the images, who is building this thing? Who wrote syllabus for witchcraft? Have you thought of it? But when I was in secondary school, my CRK teacher was a drunkard. I don't mean he drinks. He was a what? A drunkard and a smoker. He was one of the most disrespected people in school. When he's drunk, he'll come to the hostel and he'll be talking. Jesus Christ. Possibly that was the gatekeeper that would have helped us. But all they were waiting for is salary. Can you think beyond it now? Can you begin to say, God, even if I can't build something big, can I build what 10 people will be passing through every year? 10 people. But when those 10 enter and they come out, Zion will have imprinted on them, just like Egypt, Babylon, Sodom imprinted on many of us. Some of you were very holy people till you went to secondary school. That's why you saw lesbianism, because you entered Sodom. God bless you, people. So you hear of secondary school now, the teacher is teaching and the children are at the back playing with one another. It's not normal. They were not like that at home. They entered somewhere. There's another atmosphere they can enter. Ahead of a school, the children met by themselves, the prefects, and sat down. Not teachers, the students, and sat down and said, we are making a law. No more secular music in this school. The children. Meanwhile, those same children are struggling with secular music they hear from home. But they enter the system. Can you think? This thing we are doing, money is style. We are helping Satan to build. God gives us money and we build for Satan. And God is saying, where are them that will subdue? I have given you blessings that prevail over all the demonic systems on the earth. That means you can enter a place, even if that place is Babylon. If you stay with me, you will build something that is Zion. So within the context of your territory, people can enter something and find God. Years ago, I was going somewhere with a man. The man I was going with is a member of the church, a head of a house cell fellowship. The cell fellowship was holding in his place. He called me so I would go and work with someone. One of those works I was looking for. And I went there. Got the job. The person told him, write the bill for this thing. He multiplied the money. House cell fellowship leader. The second thing, he multiplied the money. He was far elderly than me. I was not even married then. I looked at it and I was wondering, okay, you are a member of Tyre, you are not our citizen. This is not an error. This is not you making mistake. This is a pattern. Then we're in the car one day coming back, and then he turned and looked at me. I don't forget it. He said, I like you. Do you know why I like you? Anytime you are around, I'm at peace. Okay, you live in Tyre. But in Zion, we have peace. I only came with my territory along when I entered your car. It is the realm I came with that you are enjoying. But when I drop from the car, you will go back to your worries. Can you come out of that territory? If I'm not mistaken, I asked him, why are you adding this thing? I wish I could tell him then. Say, oh God, this thing you are doing, you are building for Satan. The profit you will make from this money is what will destroy your wife and your children. Because when you bring out that profit, Tyre has given you money. And when you use that money, the spirit from Tyre will begin to make merchandise of your family. Can you build for Zion? I have blessed you. I have given you a mandate. I don't care how bad it is. If you are willing to build, I can renew your mind to see how we can build this thing. Can renew your mind. God can shift your mind to build according to his wisdom. He can. But you have to think that way. Jesus Christ. Think that way. Think it. Think it. Think it until it becomes the lines of your thought. Think it until it becomes things that you echo from your house. Until you begin soliloquizing, I am a citizen of Zion. And listen to me, when USA sends men into Nigeria, when they come to Nigeria, they don't care how Nigeria look. They build something called an embassy. And the moment you enter that embassy, every law in Nigeria ceases to exist. Even if the president wanted to arrest you, our president, if you enter the US embassy, he cannot do it. Nigerian military cannot enter there. If they enter there, they enter for war. It means if we build for Zion here, people can enter, and the things that molest them from different places will cease to exist. But you have to think that way. Think that way. Think that way. Stop thinking bread. They are not that small. Stop thinking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They are not that small. What do you think men like Mark Zuckerberg are looking for? Money? Fame? No! They are looking for dominion. Why will you think Elon Musk bought Twitter? He needs money? Investment? No! He wants to dominate the world of information, so he can choose who speaks and who does not speak. Those guys know the war they are fighting. We cannot be pawns in this game. We cannot be. We came with a superior blessing from Yahweh. We cannot be the ones that they are toasting around. We can't be the ones. Do we have a newspaper in this country that is held by a believer? That if that newspaper said this is what happened, we know that's what happened. Do we have one? Every news on the newspaper is manipulated by the owner. It means somebody has subdued what we hear and what we believe. Somebody subdued it. And if you ask a Christian, he's just looking for how to get a job in the newspaper area and feed his mouth. And the moment he can buy a car and look bigger than his neighbor, he feels around and shares testimony. Meanwhile, men are building spirit cities. Cities were built by men. And can I tell you how desperate those guys are? The day Joshua conquered what's his name? Jericho. Joshua looked upon Jericho and he cursed it. He said, no man will ever build this kind of city. What kind of city is this that an angel must leave heaven? What kind of city makes an army trek for 7 days? The city was so bad, he said nobody should live there. It's too terrible. He destroyed it and cursed it. And he said, whoever tries to build this city, he will lay the foundation on his firstborn and he will finish the gates on his lastborn. It means that you must kill to have that city. Guess what? A man did it. A man killed his own firstborn, laid the foundations of Jericho and finished it with his lastborn. But he must build back a demonic spirit city. He must build it back. Those guys are willing to die. They sacrifice their children to build the cities that we see. The man killed his son to become a governor, so that after he becomes a governor, slavery and penury can run in that place. A messenger of Satan. You cannot even go for fasting and prayer. Common fasting and we have ulcer. But a 70-year-old man is sleeping on the grave to rule you. To choose who speaks and who is quiet. 70 years old man. A man will take his own child and sacrifice to become an imbecile. The child is born, cannot become anything. All because he wants powers to build, but it was given us for free. Jesus paid on the cross so that we have enough blessing to build a system, and all you are looking for is food. Can you not hear the cry? Sometimes I don't know what to say. That when you are old, you will see your children and realize that while you were playing, people were building what will rule their lives. All you are thinking about is the money in your pocket, and God gave you a privilege to build. God gave you a privilege to build. He sent you as a teacher to a school, and his mind was that if you can just work in this school for 5 years, I will give you something better. But for now, there are about 200 children that I need you to touch so that they can find destiny. I bettered them for an intention, but if you don't go there, they will be slaves and never fulfill destiny. He said, I cannot be a teacher. I cannot be a teacher. The money is just 5,000 naira, and you cannot see 200 souls. Fire determines your direction. I came to stir up something in your spirit that you have a prevailing blessing, but your mind needs to be rattled out of it. You have a prevailing blessing. Years ago, God told me something. He said, if you say you have grace on your head, let me see the people's lives you can change. Let me bring you an addict, a drunkard, a womanizer. Let me bring you a confused man and see what your life can make out of it. But guess what? The average believer is looking for finished products. You want to employ a godly person, but you have never raised one. Never trained anybody to be righteous, but you want a man that will hold the money in your office and not steal it. You have never discipled anyone, but somebody came for interview and you had the effrontery to ask, are you a believer? Will you be faithful? Are you faithful with God? Are you faithful with the vision? You see, it was just Joseph that said, I cannot do this wickedness to God. I had to study it. He said, I cannot do this wickedness to God and sin against. He differentiated it. The wickedness was that God had left a promise for Abraham that he will send his children to a land and they will live there for 400 years and they will become a nation and then he will bring them out. The blessing was hanging on Joseph. So hunger will kill Jacob if I fail. Hunger will kill Reuben. Hunger will kill Judah. Hunger will kill Benjamin. I cannot fail now. If I don't arrive in Egypt and build Goshen before they come, when Jacob comes, he will become a slave to Pharaoh just to get food. I cannot allow it. So I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to build. I'm going to build. I told myself something years back. Even if I don't build anything for anyone, but at least let my own children find something to live inside. Let them find a school. Let them find a business. Let them find a church. Let them find something in which the investments of God upon their life will not be a waste. Let them find it.
you come to that terrain, that's when you find out what you call warfare. Some of you have no idea. You think those guys that are up there are doing business? It's a war that we are inside. All of them are warring to have souls that they were enslaved in Babylon, or they will make merchandise of entire. But we were sent that heaven will find souls to fulfill the mandate of God. How are you thinking with the blessing? Aye mi bola fun Jesus. Ẹ̀mí mi fògo fún ọ, Jésù. Ayé mi bọ́lá fún ọ, Jésù. Ẹ̀mí mi fògo fún ọ, Jésù. Ayé mi. Sister, your saloon can be a place where people come, and when your hands touch, the anointing will change them. Your saloon was built so that every time they come to make their hair, Zion will invade. A depressed person walks into your saloon, but before they go, another spirit, the spirit of the Lord from Zion, can precipitate resources to their minds. That in your saloon, when you finish making her hair, suddenly divine ideas pop open. All because you built a place. How did you leave the saloon to become a place of gossip? How did you allow Babylon? God is not asking for too much. There's something He has given you. He gave you the blessing. Subdue. Hafikambo salantoa. That's your crèche where mothers come to keep their children. It was supposed to be Zion, where you will look upon the children like Anna the prophetess, and you will begin to speak over those children, and suddenly an army of warriors can rise with covenant because they came through your hand. But all you think about in the crèche is what? Your mind shifts. It shifts. What is in your hand? The blessing of the Lord is there. He said, all I have in my hand is a rod. He said, stretch it. It may be Egypt, but stretch the rod. There is a blessing on that rod. Stretch it. Stretch out the idea. Stretch out your resources. Stretch out the grace upon your life. Heaven has something to gain. Heaven has something to gain. He has something to gain. Heaven has something to gain. I am me. Me. I think by the blessing. My mind plans by the blessing. The strategies for the season that God has given so that Zion will find expression. It fills my mind. Fills my mind. I Is fast spent. If you are here and you are born again, there is a blessing on you. Don't waste it. It's not for food, it's to build. Give me Hebrews chapter 11 verse 32 to 34. Hebrews 11:32. I will build for Zion, Kumanai. And what shall I most say? For the time will fail me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, of David also, and Samuel, and the prophets. Look at the reason. Who through faith subdued kingdoms. The blessing that was upon these ones that we mentioned was not that they had food, they bought houses, and they had cars. Was that they subdued. There were kingdoms on ground, and they subdued those kingdoms. He said they wrought righteousness. Suddenly, they built a system for righteousness. Stop being afraid of that kingdom. You came with an ancient blessing, and the God that partners with you, his first and foremost operation was that blessing. And what he told you about the blessing was that it had capacity to subdue.